Excuse me. All right. So the lesson that we're going to discuss for this meeting is about verbal communication. The lesson objectives. At the end of the lesson, the students can learn about the basic concepts and components of language, identify the characteristics of a language, and apply this knowledge in creating your own set of words. Right. Verbal communication. Verbal communication involves the use of language to express ideas. So basically, when we say verbal communication, you're going to use a medium in order to communicate with other people, which is language. In order for you to convey your thoughts, your ideas, your emotions, or whatever it is that you want to relate to other people. When discussing verbal communication, communication scholars do not simply look at language, but rather explore the ways in which it is used when interacting with others. So when we try to understand language, it's not just about the symbols, the sounds that we see and hear that compose of a specific language, but it is also involves the way the language being used in a specific context, the participants of the communication themselves, their background knowledge or their schema or their cultural background, and whatever it is that composes the participants of the communication. Language is just a collection of symbols that can be arranged in a particular order according to a particular grammar. So when we say language, it composes of different systems. For example, we have the semantics or the meanings of the words in a language. We also have phonology and phonetics. It refers to the sounds, the articulation, and the parts of our body where the sounds being produced. And we also have the syntax or the grammar, the proper arrangement of the grammar in a specific language. Okay. So there are basic components of a language. First is language is made up of symbols. Every language contains symbols or elements which can create meaning when put together in a certain way. In verbal communication, it involves the use of language, which is made up of, symbols. Like for example, the word language, it composes symbols that represent this specific word. We have the alphabet or the letter. So the letters of this specific word, when you combine, then it represents the word itself, which is the language. Symbols are arbitrary representations of something else, which means there is no direct connection between a symbol and what it represents. When we say arbitrary, it means random, meaning there is no conscious systematic process on representing an object through symbols, meaning it just happened. Okay, for example, the word chair. There's no natural connection between the object chair and the 5 letters in this specific word. These letters are just used in order to represent, but there is no direct connection between the word chair and the letters that it represents, or the object of the chair itself, and the letters or the symbols that represent. As a result of the arbitrary nature of symbols, the meanings applied to words are somewhat ambiguous. Okay, if you're going to dissect the word chair, if you're going to put out or eradicate even just a letter of this specific word, then it won't represent the word anymore. Okay, next concept is the language enables internal and external communication. A speaker uses language to engage in an internal conversation with him or herself. At the same time, language also enables the speaker to talk to or respond to others through oral written means. So when we say language, we can use that for internal and external communication. When we say internal, you communicate within yourself. Sa external, you communicate with other people outside of yourself. So in context of communication, there are various forms. We have intrapersonal, interpersonal, mass communication, public communication. So the most basic context of communication is intrapersonal, meaning you are what do you call that? You know how to communicate within yourself. So it's not bad when you see other people talking to himself or herself. It's not totally bad. But it's very important that we know how to internalize what we're going to say to other people. So communication starts within yourself. So you process your thoughts, ideas within yourself before going to communicate with other people. So by using language, it enables you to communicate with other people. Okay, language is governed by rules. Rule-governed system, each language has specific rules that are applied for consistency across speakers. So whether we are conscious or not, there are rules that govern a specific language. And the rules for every language is distinct, meaning the rules for English language cannot be totally applied when it comes to Filipino languages. For example, in Cebuano language or Tagalog language. So there are rules that you cannot apply for other languages. Okay, Linforce asserts that language is made up of phonological, syntactic, and semantic components. Adler and Rodman, 2011, also discuss a fourth element, the regulative component of language. When we say language is governed by rules, it refers to the phonology and phonetics, syntax, and semantics. These are the basic components that regulate or that govern a specific language. But there are other branches of linguistics that are also part of a linguistic system that governed that specific language. Okay, let's first discuss phonological component. Say phonology. Phonetics and phonology are different, but they are interrelated. When you study the sounds of a specific language, you cannot separate these two branches of linguistics, is phonetics and phonology. So phonetics and phonology both can be generally described as the study of speech sound. So when you study the sounds, speech sounds of specific language, it refers to phonetics and phonology. I remember when I was in college, we have a subject, phonetics and phonology. It's not a separate subject. It's really combination. So it's hard to be distinct when it comes to studying speech sounds because you cannot separate these two branches of linguistics. So we have phonetics, specifically the study of how speech sounds are produced, what their physical properties are, and how they're produced. So basically, when you say phonetics, it refers to how people produces the sounds of their language. So phonology, the description of the systems and patterns of speech sounds based on a theory of what every speaker of a language unconsciously knows about the sound patterns of that language. So phonology, it refers to the sound patterns, the speech sounds, patterns of speech sounds, meaning there are specific combinations of sounds that can be studied and phonology can be used for that study. So phonetics, it deals with how the sounds being produced. Phonology, the patterns of the sound, the organization of the sounds. Okay. So this is phonology, a branch of linguistics. And we have also branches of phonology. We have phonetics, phonemics, and under phonetics, acoustic, auditory, and articulatory. Say phonetics, the articulation. Phonemics, the distribution or the function of the sounds. When we say phonetics, there are three branches, the acoustic, auditory, and articulatory. Say acoustic, these are the properties of the sounds. We say auditory, how the people perceive the sounds being produced by someone. Say articulatory, how a speaker articulate or produce the words or the sounds. Next one is syntactic component. Okay, syntax is a study of structure and ordering of components within a sentence. So basically, when we say syntax, it's about the grammar rules, grammatical rules of a specific language. The word syntax came from Greek and literally meant a setting out together or arrangement. So basically, when we say syntax, it is the organization of the construction of sentences in a specific language. So these are the basic constituent structure analysis of a sentence. This is for English language. In Tagalog, it's different. Because in English, we have SVO, subject, verb, object. But in Filipino languages such as Tagalog or Cebuano, we have VSO, verb, subject, and object. In English language, this is the case. We have the sentence or verb phrase. Under the sentence, there should be noun phrase at saka verb phrase. So this is a hardcore linguistics na no, but I just want to discuss it so that you have idea. In a sentence, there should be noun phrase and verb phrase. The sentence won't be complete if there's no noun phrase or verb phrase, either of the two. For example, the cat sat on the mat. So if we're going to dissect this sentence, you have the article and the noun. That makes up the noun phrase. You also have the sat on the mat. Sat, verb, preposition on, article the, and noun, which is mat. That is the verb phrase. Verb phrase also contains prepositional phrase and noun phrase. So it depends upon the case of the sentence. There are other sentences that a verb phrase did not contain any prepositional phrase or noun phrase anymore. It's just a pure verb phrase. Verb, at saka, call that as a verb. Another one, the boy and the girl ate their tea. So in noun phrase, it's possible that there are two noun phrases. If the subject is more than more than one. If there's more than one subject in a sentence and it is being connected by a conjunction. For example, this one, the boy and the girl. This is the noun phrase. There are two noun phrases for this example. the boy and the girl. The boy and the girl, these two noun phrases are being connected by conjunction, which is the word and. And we also have different kinds of grammar. We have descriptive, prescriptive, pedagogical, theoretical, reference, and traditional. The most basic forms or kinds of grammars, itong descriptive at saka prescriptive. And these two are the ones that I will discuss to you. First is the term prescriptive grammar refers to a set of norms or rules governing how a language should or should not be used rather than describing the ways in which a language is actually used. Contrast with descriptive grammar, also called normative grammar and prescriptivism. So basically, we say prescriptive grammar, it refers to how the language should be used. What is the proper way of using a specific language? What are the proper grammatical rules? What are the proper ways of conveying or constructing the sentences in specific language? Kaya siya tinawag na prescriptive kasi it's prescribed. We also have the term descriptive grammar. It refers to an objective, non-judgmental description of the grammatical constructions in a language. It's an examination of how a language is actually being used in writing and in speech. Specialists in descriptive grammar or linguists examine the principles and patterns that underlie the use of words, phrases, clauses, and sentences. So descriptive grammar is different from prescriptive. Kasi sa prescriptive, you're going to really follow what's the proper grammatical rules in a specific language. Pero itong descriptive grammar, it's different. It will just describe the grammatical rules, the construction of the language. Kasi there are instances that people won't follow the grammatical rules in specific language, especially if that way of constructing a sentence is entrenched to the speakers. Meaning, nakasanayan na nila na ganyan yung pagkakakonstruct nila. Like for example, we have what we call Filipino English, Australian English, British English, Canadian English, Singaporean English. These are variations of English language, varieties of English language. And these varieties of a specific language have a specific way of constructing the English language that are different from each other. Say English, cognates naman, if you want to study the history of languages, cognates na yan ng grammar, German language, itong cognate ng German language, itong English. So, it's because of the language is being spread out around the world. Nagkakaroon ng varieties na. Even native speakers of English, they commit a lot of grammatical errors. It's just they are not aware of their mistakes or errors. Kasi first language nila yan. Kaya halimbawa sa atin, when we speak in Cebuano or Tagalog, if your first language is Cebuano or Tagalog, usually you're not very critical, you're not judgmental to other people or even to yourself when you commit errors because you are not conscious. But when it comes to second language, especially itong English, kasi we have what we call monitor hypothesis in second language learning. Mas critical tayo when it comes to our second language, for example, English. Have you noticed, for example, in social media, mas maraming grammar Nazi na Filipinos compared with native speakers of English? Kasi mas conscious tayo, mas aware tayo of the grammatical rules kasi second learners lang tayo. Although some of us are some of us, English language is our like native language or first language. But most of the Filipinos are just learners. That's why mas marami grammar Nazi na Filipinos compared with native English speakers. Kasi mas aware yung Filipinos about the grammatical rules. So that's the difference between prescriptive and descriptive. Say prescriptive, you need to religiously follow the prescribed grammatical rules. You need to be, we call that legalistic. Say descriptive, it will just describe how the language is being used. Like for another example, yung sa Black American English, one of the most common traits of their English is the double negation. Like for example, yung sentence na ain't no mountain high enough. Are you familiar with that song? That's a song. Ain't no mountain high enough. The word ain't and no are already form of negative words. Double negation na siya. In prescriptive, it's a no-no. It's a mistake. It's an error. It's ungrammatical. But in descriptive, it's fine. It's because that's how Black Americans use the English language. We also have semantic component. So semantics, it is the study of meaning in language. Linguistic semantics is the study of meaning that is used by humans to express themselves through language. So basically, when we say semantics, it's about the meanings of a word, the literal meaning, because we also have what we call pragmatics, the figurative or connotative meaning of words. But itong semantics, it's the literal meaning of the word. This is usually what we see in dictionaries. What is semantics? The study of meaning of words, phrases, and sentence. Excuse me. We have lexical semantics. Words and meaning relationship among words. We say lexical semantics or lexicosemantics, it refers to how the words being used in a sentence. Because sometimes the word change yung lexical category niya. There are words that their lexical category will be changed if they are being used in a specific sentence. Like for example, are you familiar with verbals? Nasa ano nyo yan? I think grade 9 yata yan na lesson. Verbals. Verbs, these are verbs, but when they are used in a specific language, a specific sentence, they have different lexical category or function. Dili na siya mahimong verb. For example, let me show you an example. Wait. Okay, the word swimming. Okay. When we try to understand the word swimming, the lexical category of this word is verb. If it's just this word alone. But when we try to use this in a specific language, a specific sentence, rather, swimming is my favorite sport. So when you try to dissect this sentence, swimming is no longer a verb. It becomes, let me ask, Hannah Lee, what is now the lexical category of swimming? Is it, ano ba? Hannah Lee. Diba, the word swimming alone, it's a verb. But when you use this in this sentence, itong sample ko, swimming is my favorite sports. Now, what is the lexical category of the sentence of the word swimming? Hannah Lee. Wala si Annalie. Kay Carl.
Noun, sir.
What?
Noun.
Exactly. This word is now became a noun. So, nalahi na siya. So, that's lexicosemantic. We also have phrasal or sentential semantics. Syntactic units larger than a word, meaning the meaning of a phrase or a sentence as a whole. We also have regulative component. The regulative components regulative component governs how a message is interpreted appropriately in a given context. Now, this is what we call pragmatics. How the words, phrases, sentences used in a specific context nagkakaroon ng connotative and figurative meaning. For example, ito yung, what do you call that? May idiomatic expressions, metaphors, and other figurative speech. Ito. Sa branch ng pragmatics yan. Okay, semantics versus pragmatics. See, semantics, study of words and their meanings in a language. We have pragmatics, study of words and their meaning in a language with concern to their context. See, semantics focuses mainly on the significance of the meaning of words in a literal sense. Additionally, focuses on the meaning of words according to the context and their inferred meanings as well. Studies the literal meaning, while pragmatics studies the intended or the inferred meaning as well. So, yung the difference between pragmatics and semantics. Although both branches of linguistics study the meaning of words, phrases, sentences, but in a different way, different method of understanding these entities. Semantics, literal; pragmatics, figurative. We also have languages based on social convention. Okay, the meaning of the words in a language is based in social convention or the agreement of the community who speaks the same language. Okay, so remember, in order to communicate with, in order to form social interaction with other people, we need to communicate. And when we communicate, we need to employ or utilize language in order to convey what we want to express to other people in communicating with them. So since language can be formed culturally and it involves social interaction among people who live in the same community, nagkakaroon ng agreement between or among these people. What are the meaning of the words? What are the words that they're going to form or construct in order to communicate with everyone in that community? So nagkakaroon ng agreement. Anong itatawag natin sa bagay na to? How do we call this one? So nagkakaroon ng agreement. Social conventions are those arbitrary rules and norms governing the countless behaviors all of us engage in every day without necessarily thinking about them. From shaking hands when greeting someone to driving on the right side of the road. Even our nonverbal communications, like our gestures, like for example in Filipino culture, yung mag-bless, magmano, and mag-bow down in order to pay respect to other people. Ganun siya. So siya part of social convention yun siya. There's an agreement among the people who live in the same community on how to create specific language. Language can be learned. People can learn various languages through formal education, immersion, migration, and other ways. So even if you have your native language or first language, you can also learn other languages. Like for example, in your case, in sa Chinese language, although we don't have Chinese language anymore because of the situation. So the previous educational system, we have you had Chinese language, right? So that's a form of learning a language. So that's a formal way of learning a language. You also have migration. For example, when you family migrate to other places or other countries. So in order for you to communicate with people who live on that place, you need to learn the language. Distribution of languages. Excuse me. So, Indo-European family of languages. So, dito yung ano yung call that English language. This is the family of Indo-European languages. Dito galing ang English language. But we also have sa ano artificial language. We also have artificial languages like sa gina na Game of Thrones and The Lord of the Rings, tsaka sa Star Wars ba yun or Star Trek? I forgot. I think it's Star Trek. Venetian languages, Venetian language sa ano sa Star Trek ba yun or Star Wars. In Game of Thrones, you have the Valyrian language. You know, ano yan siya? Mga artificial languages. Created purposely. It's different from natural language. Ito yung mga natural language. And this is where our language belongs, in the Austronesian language family. And ito yung Philippine languages. Ito galing. Galing tayo sa Malayo-Polynesian. Ito yung Cebuano at saka Tagalog. And language evolves. Unique expressions, newly coined words, and distinct language patterns arise out of emerging trends in the creativity of the speaker. So, language evolves, meaning it's either the meaning of a specific word is either change or nadagdagan yung meaning. Like for example, the word tablet. Before we say tablet, it refers to yung at the same with yung kay Moses, yung tablet, yung sa Ten Commandments. Now, yung tablet, it also refers to a gadget. The word bookmark, yung piece of paper that you can put in a book if you want to stop reading and you want to continue later so that you can you can still find the last page where you stop reading. Pero ngayon, bookmark, ginagamit na rin siya na term sa internet. For example, sa Google, i-bookmark mo yung specific website. So because of the advent of technology, you also formed new words. For example, yung mga social media expressions like LOL. In semantics and historical linguistics, semantic change refers to any change in the meanings of a word over the course of time, also called semantic shift, lexical change, and the semantic progression. So this is what we call historical linguistics or semantic change. In semantic change, we have widening or extension. Range of meaning of a word increases so that the word can be used in more contexts than were appropriate before the change. Meaning, there's a specific word, the meanings of that word being increased or nadagdagan. Excuse me. Okay, for example, the word dog. The word dog before, this word means a specific powerful breed of dog. Pero ngayon, the word dog refers to all races of dog, all breeds of dog. Before, a specific breed of dog siya, of dog. Pero ngayon, all races of dog. We also have the cupboard. We also have narrowing or specialization or restriction. We say range of meaning is decreased. So it's the opposite of widening or extension. Kasi sa widening or extension, the meanings of the word are being increased, while narrowing, the meanings of the word are being decreased. So that the word can be used appropriately only fewer contexts than before the change. Okay, for example, itong word na meat, it refers to food in general. But today, the word meat refers to specific type of food yung sa mga animals, animal meat like pork, chicken meat, beef, fish, ganun. Itong hound is the term in order to refer all the breeds of dogs in general. But now it's a specific species of dog or specific breed of dog. Ito namang the word the wife, it refers to woman. But today, it refers to the spouse, the female spouse. And this is what I have talked earlier, the different forms of Englishes. We have the British, American, kakaroon ng other terms. For British, yung tawag sa kanila is underground. In American, it's subway. In British, yung tawag sa kanila is chemist. Sa American is drugstore or pharmacy. In British, phone box. American, phone booth. In British, a long line, it's called queue. But in American, it's just a line. Ito pa. Itong candies, sa atin candies. American, it's also candies. In British, it's sweets. Itong cotton candy sa atin, cotton candy din sa America. But in British English, it's different. It's candy floss. And you can find other variations of words in British and American English, even in Filipino English. People, not words, create meaning. As what I have discussed earlier, in the very first component of language, there's no direct connection between the object and the symbols being represented by those symbols. It's because it's the people who give meanings of the words. The meanings of the words depend on how people interpret and process them. Since people have unique backgrounds, their interpretations vary in different ways. That's why sometimes misinterpretations, miscommunications happen because we interpret differently. So it's very important that when we communicate with other people, we need to be clear. We need to avoid ambiguity in our communication. So people create meanings of the words, not the words themselves. And that's the end of our lesson. So do you have questions, clarifications about our lesson? Guys, mag-remind lang ko sa may kulang pa. I will still give you a chance to submit those activities that you're not able to submit to me, both in oral com and EAPP. And for the YUMS na lang also, kung sa Introduction to World Religions, you submit to me, kay sayang. Before you submit your activities for the second week, you submit first your week 1 activities. Discuss ko lang tong saglit tong activity ni last activity sa Oralcom. Okay. This activity, maybe might be confused when you understand the instruction. Ito. Assessment activity 1. Provide specific examples and situations of the following basic concepts of language. Follow the given instructions of each concept. Code your answers in Word. By the way, guys, do not separate your answers in, for example, sa isang week na activities. Kasi, for example, when you upload, kung naka-assorted siya, hindi ko na makita yung first activity. That's the disadvantage in Schoology. Yung first file na in-upload ninyo, hindi ko na ma-retrieve. The last file that will be retrieved, yung last one na sinubmit ninyo. Kaya may iba na hindi ko na na-check kasi hindi ko ma-retrieve talaga. Although, naka-indicate doon yung may history man. Naka-indicate doon ano yung mga submissions ninyo. Kaya lang hindi ko na ma-retrieve yung file. Kaya this week 2 assessment activities, please put all your answers in just one file na lang, ha? Okay, anyway, eto. Sa languages made of symbols, choose one language that has an alphabetical system different from what we are using in the Filipino language. Provide at least 10 characters and provide their translation in the Filipino alphabet. Like for example, it's fine if you're going to copy-paste lang sa internet. Anyway, you can find so many references or sources in the internet. Halimbawa sa Japanese words, yung characters nila, ano yung equivalent nun sa Filipino na characters and not the translation of the words. We're talking about the alphabets or symbols. Excuse me. And this one. Language enables internal and external communication. Provide a situation wherein this concept of language is being displayed. Kaya mag-provide na lang isang communication situation wherein language is being used. Communication. Language is governed by rules. Choose one of the 4 components of this concept and use it to provide an example to show one of the rules that govern your chosen language in task A. Diba sa language is governed by rules, we have semantics, phonology, ganito, semantics, phonology, and syntax. For example, in task A ito, Chinese language yung pinili mo. Dito, Chinese language naman yung piliin mo. Still the same. Chinese language still in this part of the assessment. Then language is based on social convention. Provide a situation wherein this concept of language is being displayed, where language is being used in social interaction. Then language can be learned. Provide a situation wherein you learn a language. It could be formal education, migration, or immersion, or kahit anong situation. Language evolves. Give 5 words in English language that have different meanings in the past than how they are used today. Meaning, 5 English words that have different meanings in the past that are being used today. Iba na yung pagkagamit sa kanila in the present time. And 5 newly coined words that are prominently used in social media. Yung mga words or even yung mga initial slang like LOL and other newly coined words. Provide the definition of each word. So you need to provide the definition of each word. Dito sa 5 words in English language, yung past meaning at saka present meaning. Ito naman sa newly coined words, yung meaning lang niya. Yung meaning being used in this current time. People, not words, create meaning. To provide 5 words in Cebuano language that have different meanings in Tagalog language. Meaning 5 Cebuano words that have different meanings in Tagalog. Like for example, the word langgam. Malanggam in Cebuano, it refers to birds. But in Tagalog, it refers to ants. Ganon. 5 lang. Tapos, 5 words in English language that have different meanings in American English and British English. So, or pwede na rin yung examples na pinakita ko kanina. Eto. They have the same object but different terms na lang. Ito na lang yung sa ano. Dito sa letter G, people, not words, create meaning. Itong American English versus British English. Dito naman sa activity 2, provide 10 words in Filipino language that do not have equivalent in English language. Like for example, the word kilig. The word kilig has no specific or equivalent term in English language kasi it's a unique word in our language. And then 10 English words that originated from the Filipino language. Okay, there are various words actually originated from Filipino language that are being used in English language na. Like for example, the word adobo. Adobo is now an official English word. Bundok. Bundok is now an official English word pero different yung spelling niya. So ganon. Activity 2. So that's it. So do you have questions? Clarification, it's already 10:50. Wala na? Okay, I think that's it. That concludes our discussion for this morning. Thank you very much for your attendance and cooperation. And have a good weekend. Bye guys. Thank you.